Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Bitcoin's revolutionizing banking and finance, or a niche political protest movement. Take your pick. However, there is no doubt this virtual currency is being given a careful look. On the back of the global financial crisis and the stranglehold big finance has over the economy, having an alternative currency appears to fit what is called the new economy. To Crosstalk Bitcoins, I'm joined by Amir Taki in London. He is a Bitcoin developer and owner of the British Bitcoin exchange Intersango. In Atlanta, we have Daniel Castro. He is a senior analyst with the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation. And in Dallas, we cross to Ed Butowski. He is the founder of ChapwoodFinance.com and an internationally recognized expert in wealth management. And all right, gentlemen, Crosstalk rules in effect. That means you can jump in anytime you want. Amir, if I can go to you first, what is the value of Bitcoins? In a few sentences.
It's a type of currency which can be sent anywhere in the world, like instantaneously, and you can't have any kind of government or central power mandate that how you use your money. So you can send to whoever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And there's a big problem right now in the financial industry where we have a global financial system where a lot of people are not allowed to participate. So if you want to do business in the world, you need to go and register a corporation, you need to open a bank account, and this option is not open to a lot of people. The financial system is used as a tool of censorship. So political organizations like WikiLeaks had their payment options shut down by the Department of Justice after they put pressure on their banks and Visa and Mastercard and PayPal. It's a very odious tool that's used to censor speech. And yet at the same time, neo-Nazi websites and the KKK was still being served by these companies who have a monopoly on the market. And it's the same thing with Mega Upload. Mega Upload was a site which allowed anyone to upload files to the internet. It's something that Hollywood and media executives don't like. Their business models are failing. You know, they also want to be bailed out just like the banks. And so the regulators, and so the US Department of Justice came after them too.
Okay, all right. I think we got your point. We got your point, Ed. Okay, it sounds like financial freedom of speech. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how Amir, you can say people aren't allowed to participate. I mean, look, this was all born out of a paper that was written in 2008, and the paper, great paper, but to implement something like this, it's just not going to happen. Quite frankly, I think the whole thing's kind of silly.
But it's working.
What do you mean?
Ed, it's working.
Hang
on, Amir.
Amir, let me finish my point, Amir.
You said people can't participate.
But
tell me what you mean by that, because that's a lie, and you know that's a lie. Like there are companies, like monopoly companies, like Visa, Mastercard, PayPal, and they are censoring the internet. They're preventing people from being able to do business over the internet. What about sanctions? Sanctions, countries like Iran, North Korea.
How are they doing that, Amir?
All right, Ed.
And he's not allowed to participate in the global economy because these companies and the politicians say that they're not.
Amir, please let Ed reply. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Okay.
Okay, so Amir, in order to have a good conversation, you got to let me speak, okay?
Go ahead, Ed.
And the point of this is that you said that a lot of the countries are not allowing, there's a lot of people who can't participate. I mean, during a time where financial crisis, you are spot on, there's a financial crisis, there's a lot of people who are questioning the validity of anything these days. To implement something over the computer, some new currency, and you think that all of a sudden this is going to take off, that's a pipe dream. That is just not going to happen, even though some of these things that you're saying might be true, or there might be elements of it that are true.
Okay,
you're just talking nonsense.
Gentlemen, we have a third guest.
It's not, Amir.
We have a
It's not,
third
Amir.
guest.
We
have a third guest in Atlanta.
Let me just jump in here.
Go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I just want to jump in because, I think, I guess I disagree with both of the other guests. For one, it's very likely that we will have digital currencies in the future. This is a trend that we've seen over the past 20 years. The first digital currencies were implemented in the 90s. They were regulated out of existence, but they're going to continue to evolve and get better over time. So it's a mistake to dismiss Bitcoin. Whether or not Bitcoin is successful long term, nobody knows, but we will have virtual currencies and we will have decentralized currencies. And we also need to be aware of what the implications of this is. Right now, governments regulate every bank. They regulate currencies very strongly so that they can control money laundering, so that they can prevent abuses by controlling the financial sector. Whether or not you agree with something, it may or may not be an abuse, but that's how governments control things, through the financial sector. With decentralized currencies, governments lose that ability. They lose the ability to come in and say that something's illegal and we're going to stop it because they don't have control over it anymore. They also lose access to monetary policy. So these are big implications that we need to be aware of. I don't think we can dismiss it as a pipe dream.
Okay. Amir, would you like to reply to that?
I completely agree with you, Daniel. I think that down the road it's going to work.
You know the London meetup group?
Daniel,
it used to be 5 people just meeting together. But just last week I went to the meetup group and it's now over 60 people. And this is not like activists or like your everyday, your usual kind of anti-system anarchists. No, normal people like programmers and people working in the city, and they found a new really interesting technology called Bitcoin. And they've seen how the banks are responded. They've seen that they're moving and making moves. The governments have been trying to shut it down, and they were there brainstorming, like these people saying, how do we take on these big organizations? Bitcoin is a really powerful tool. It's just opened up the doors to a whole new group of people this movement didn't have before. There's a blacklist
but Amir, it's just not being taken seriously in the world.
Financial companies are not allowed to deal with. And all of the Bitcoin exchanges are on that blacklist.
Amir, let me jump in. Let me jump in. Ed, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, Amir, I mean, look, conceptually, as Daniel said, down the road, this might work. You're in a financial crisis right now over and around every place in the world, Japan and in Europe and so on. And right now, people aren't looking at bringing on a new currency or a new way of, transacting, trade. People right now are looking to make sure that there is security. So the complete the complete opposite.
Ed, isn't this
right
the whole
now
point? But isn't this the whole point of the currency, this new currency? Security? Go ahead, Ed.
Well, yeah, but then again, I mean, you tell me anything that's secure. You talk about, earlier Amir talked about Wikipedia. I mean, there are hackers. There's things. We had a situation,
WikiLeaks.
I guess, about a year or two ago about someone hacking in.
This
is just not secure.
Wikipedia
It's a good paper. It's a good concept, but it's just not going to happen right now.
Okay, Daniel.
No, it's here now and it's working.
Well, even if you don't
people
agree
are
with
using it, what are you on about?
Daniel,
people
go ahead.
It's like
Daniel, go ahead.
People are
even if you don't agree with Bitcoin even if you don't agree with Bitcoin as a currency, it's certainly a successful commodity. Lots of people have invested money in it, and some people have been successful, some people have lost money, but it holds value. Anything that can hold value is a useful commodity. It can be traded right now. And so even if you don't accept it as something that's a long-term currency, it's definitely something that's being used right now to store value when people right now don't trust other currencies.
Well, Daniel,
ultimately, when you look at currencies, it's about
Daniel,
whether or not people accept it. Right now, you have a large number of users accepting it.
Okay, Ed? What do you say?
Daniel, what is the value? Let's just talk about it, because I'm an investor. What's the value of Bitcoin? If the computers were shut off, what's the underlying value of it?
What's the value of your dirty fiat currency that's printed by governments every day?
Well, it's actually information. It's not computers. That's why it's value. As long as others are willing to accept the information
what is the value
that you
of your
give
fiat
them
currency?
in exchange for something else, it has value. It's like a baseball card. It has value because people say it has value.
Amir, go ahead, jump in.
People are using Bitcoins right now.
Exactly.
It's a proper underground economy. It's like email in the early days.
What percentage of the world is using it?
Will take off.
Amir,
Ed, go ahead.
What percentage of the world is using Bitcoin right now, Amir? Amir, what percentage of the world and trade is using Bitcoin right now?
Amir, go ahead.
You know when the states came in Cyprus just recently to take a haircut out of people's bank accounts of 30% to bail out the banks. Every account over 100,000 euros are going to have a haircut taken of 30%, and that is not.
I understand that, but that's not what I asked you, Amir.
That's your
Amir, that's not what I asked you. What percentage, in order for this to be a value?
Ed, go ahead.
Amir, in order for there to be a value to this, there has to be people using it. So my question again, which you didn't answer, what percentage of the world is using Bitcoin?
Are you honestly joking? Like, you can go right now and buy and sell Bitcoins. The market is is pretty thick and it's pretty liquid. And it's far more liquid actually than the fiat currencies because they shut down my bank accounts last year.
But why are you failing to answer my question?
Me from the banks,
why
and
are
I
you,
can't even
why
open
are you
a bank
failing
account.
to answer my
And I've
question?
just been using Bitcoin to travel the world, all through South America, through Europe. I haven't had any problem. I haven't had to use an ATM. I haven't had to use an exchange. I haven't had to use a bank. So don't tell me there's no value in Bitcoin because people are trading it. In London alone, there's over 70 different traders. There are whole different loads of businesses where you can go and buy, sell Bitcoins. You can offer services on the internet. You know, my sister, a year ago, she was offering her paintings online. She was making hundreds of dollars just by selling digital paintings. It's there and it's working. It's not some theoretical concept. It's a market. We've got charts, we've got graphs, marketplaces. There's businesses flourishing. The whole thing is booming. In fact, faster than any other technology on the internet.
But charts and graphs,
if you compare to the early days of the email, you can see the
Peter, you gotta
Bitcoin
help
is
me
on
here.
All right. Go ahead, Ed, and then I want to go to Daniel. Go ahead, Ed.
So the question again, Amir, there's charts and graphs, but that doesn't create value. The question I had for you that I still haven't gotten an answer, in order for there to be an increased value, there has to be usage of Bitcoin. What percentage of the world is using Bitcoin? Your sister uses it, which is great. Maybe one day I'll use it. But in terms of it being widely accepted during a very uncomfortable time in the world economy, it's probably not today.
Okay.
Come on.
Daniel, go ahead. Daniel, I'd like to go to Daniel. No, let's go to Daniel.
Okay.
Let's go to Daniel.
Already we have PayPal,
Daniel,
WordPress,
please, gentlemen, please. I need to go to Daniel. Okay.
Adoption grow over time.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, why is it important the size right now?
Bitcoin's a nascent. You know, the size isn't as important right now. The point is that right now, with any technology, you look at it as a network, and the network's growing. Increasingly, you have more and more users. The last statistics I saw showed that Bitcoin was larger than 20 or 40 of the world's smallest currencies. So it does have a large population use, and it grows every day. We see what used to be something that was really a niche market where you had a small number of users, anarchists, libertarian, kind of crypto libertarians online who were obsessed with this. Now it's moved mainstream. As Amir said, you have lots of businesses who are putting millions of dollars into new Bitcoin startups.
All right, gentlemen, I have to jump in here. We have to go to a short break, and after that short break, we'll continue our discussion on Bitcoin. Stay with RT. Okay, Daniel, I'd like to go back to you in Atlanta. What's the tipping point for this thing to really catch on? Because we have the global financial crisis. A lot of people simply don't trust the financial system anymore.
You know, I think what the tipping point will be is when we reach a critical mass. And you know, what that number is, I don't think we can know. But once there are a number of users with this currency, we're going to see a number of retailers who will start accepting it. Already we see this for online services. So you can host a website and pay for this using Bitcoin. We have ATMs where you can deposit cash and receive digital Bitcoins to spend elsewhere. You can buy coffee in some places. So it's just a matter of time before we get there. What we see, though, is that there's lots of innovation right now around different types of payment systems, digital payment systems. So, you know, it used to be that you just had cash, then we had credit cards and ATM cards. Now there's lots of things like PayPal or Square or other types of services where you can pay electronically. And even governments are in favor of this because cashless transactions are much more efficient. It's good for the economy, it's good for consumers. So we're moving in this direction. And as I said at the beginning, whether or not Bitcoin is the future, virtual currencies are the future because they're simply so much better than everything else.
Okay, that was simply said. Ed, what do you say? Maybe it's not Bitcoin, but it will be something like it.
I agree that could be.
Yeah,
that's right.
true.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's rare that I use. Excuse me.
Go ahead. Try.
It's rare that I use cash. I mean, we pay for things electronically. But my whole point of this is that you said earlier, Daniel, that 24 of the smaller currencies, you know, it's larger than 24 of the smaller currencies. If you look at the world economy is the United States where, you know, if you take the size of Japan, Germany, and China, add them up in terms of, although China's grown quite a bit, it matches the United States. Once you start getting much bigger countries and a lot more usage, then it'll be taken seriously. Right now, it's just not taken very seriously. regularly. Most people don't use it. And during a time that we're in right now, a financial crisis worldwide, some new technology is probably not going to be accepted at this moment.
Ed, but don't you think this is exactly the right time?
Failing.
Hold it. Ed, don't you think this is exactly the right time for this kind of innovation?
Well, it would be nice to.
Well, it started.
But when the rubber meets the road, people are not going to do that. People are very scared about where their money is, if it's secure. They're worried about the computers.
Well, if you had your money in Cyprus,
so it's just not going to take off.
If you had your money in Cyprus, Amir, jump in.
Yeah, the dollar dropped over 90% against the Bitcoin in the last month. And the Bitcoin security policy is far better than anything exists. It's something really powerful. When I hold Bitcoins on my computer and I send it to someone directly over the internet using software that I wrote completely myself.
Okay,
but when I have a bank account and
let me
send
ask
money,
you a
don't know what
question.
happens
But
inside
not
there.
everyone writes their own software. Explain that.
That's right.
No, I want Amir to explain it. Hang on, Amir, go ahead.
Okay.
I can't write software.
Well, the software is open source, so just like someone can read French or Spanish or English, you can download the software for Bitcoin and you can read through the source code and see it does exactly what it says it does. It's a system based off mathematics and cryptography, not of laws and legislation that are subject to the fallibilities and failings of humans. It's a proper system that works according to principles, mathematical principles. It can't be cheated or bent according to the wills and customs of whatever politicians, you know. A 10-year-old kid can download the Bitcoin software, get set up within 5 minutes and start accepting payments from someone in North Korea or Iran. Anyone can make a gambling website or whatever idea that they have without having to have governments or states coming in saying, I don't like that kind of
Daniel,
speech
what
that
do you
you're doing,
think?
I'm going to stop it.
Don't states want to have a piece of this action here, and taxation is an issue? Daniel?
Yeah, taxation is an issue. You know, I want to start with the issue of trust because at the heart, I think Ed was right that the issue is trust. If people trust Bitcoin, they'll use it. If people trust other currencies, they'll use those currencies as well. What you have with Bitcoin is that over time, every day that goes by where Bitcoin is a stable currency, where it's accepted by more users, that's increasing the trust. And every day that goes by where governments do bad things with their currencies, that means people lose trust in those currencies. But you're right, at the end of the day, a lot of governments care about Bitcoin because they want to, one, track transactions, they want to have insight into what's going on in their economies, and two, at the end of the day, they're not going to treat Bitcoin as something that can be ignored if it reaches a critical mass because they'll want to tax these transactions. Once they recognize it, they're going to be giving it legitimacy. So you have this trade-off here. On the one hand, some governments might not want to give legitimacy to an alternative currency, but on the other hand, if there's a lot of transactions happening there, they're going to want a piece of that pie in terms of taxes, so they're going to have to recognize its legitimacy.
Ed, you want to reply to that?
I mean, I'll just add that, you know, from a marketing standpoint, simply what Amir said a second ago, he can write his own code. He can then do transactions with North Korea and Iran. Just that comment alone would scare people away from this, going to what Daniel said. It is a trust factor.
I think it's great.
And you have 7 billion people in the world. Many of them don't have computers. Many of them don't understand Bitcoin. Most of them don't want to hear that. They want trust. And during a time like we have right now, where the world economy is just barely hanging on, you know, even though it might make sense conceptually for somebody to start something like this and get more people using it, you're going.
You know, let me go to Amir because it's a very interesting point. I mean, PayPal, lists 60 countries in the world, okay? Those are political decisions. Do all individuals have to follow that? Amir, go ahead.
Yeah, like PayPal alone blocks access from over 60 different countries. You know, some because of higher fraud rates, some for political reasons, some for other reasons. Countries like Ethiopia and Kenya. And what that means is those people are not allowed to participate in the general economy. And when we're talking about improving the economy, the way to improve it is not to say we need additional restrictions. We need additional regulations or whatever shutting people out. No, we need to remove the barriers to entry. We need to globalize trade. We need to allow everybody in the world equal access, not just Western countries. It's really like a cheek to say, oh, that scares people, North Korea and Iran. And also, what about the African countries like Ethiopia and Kenya? What, you're saying they don't have a right to participate in the global economy? Really?
No, I never.
Like, who says, you or the states?
Amir, don't put words in my mouth, Amir. I did not say that.
Gentlemen, I want to jump in here. I'm going to jump in here.
The majority of taxes
Daniel,
go to war.
Go ahead, Daniel. Jump in. Daniel, please.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the internet, North Korea is a part of that, China is a part of that. You have a lot of countries that maybe we didn't agree with, but they're part of this global network. It's the same thing with digital currencies. You can't really exclude someone, but what you do is you regulate the intermediaries, and that's what's going to be happening right now. That's what we're seeing, for example, the United States, where the financial regulatory agencies are going after the intermediaries since they can't go after Bitcoin. It's a decentralized system. They can't. There's no company in charge of it. There's no person that they can go after. So what they say is, at some point, most people want to convert Bitcoin into another currency. For example, U.S. dollars. They can go after banks that do business with these converters. They can go after any other company that's providing services that's based in the United States to Bitcoin users. And that's how you get this kind of regulation. So you're still going to be excluding, at the end of the day, North Korea or other countries that you disagree with, because the United States and other countries want to exclude them from the international systems. They want to punish them, and I think they have reason to do that.
Okay. Amir, because you're the odd man out on the program.
Peter,
go
I'd like
ahead.
to respond to something Amir said.
Okay. All right, Ed, go ahead. Go ahead, Ed.
Let me just respond. Amir, in no way, shape, or form am I saying to exclude anybody. I'm very much a free market person worldwide. I'm simply saying in order for this to catch on, there has to be worldwide acceptance, more so than there is right now. I love startups. I love new business. I love new ideas. I'm very much a supporter of the free market, as I said. I'm just simply saying in order for this to really catch on during a time where everyone is scared of everything,
excuse me,
where everybody is afraid of
this is something new. This is something new, Amir.
Well,
Amir,
I can't really talk then.
Amir, this is a political thing. This is a political thing as well. It's a protest as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but also like the Bitcoin goes beyond just digital money. It's far grander than that. If you actually look at the original white paper for Bitcoin, it says Bitcoin is a distributed system for time-stamped contracts. Now, it just happens that the most common form of contract we use is transferring value from one person to another. But there's so much more that can emerge out of the Bitcoin system. A lot of this potential that's in the Bitcoin system simply isn't used yet because it's still in its nascent stages where it's forming. It's like the early internet. The early internet did not have web browsers. It was very hard and very technical for people to use. But people came along and they built the tools, they built the systems for people to interact with that. With Bitcoin, you can do really incredible things. Things like, things like healthcare or hospitals or schools. People like that, but we have to find ways to keep funding that stuff. And Bitcoin allows you to do distributed funding of public infrastructure, which I think is really interesting, fascinating stuff. You can do stuff like, when you're roaming throughout the city and there's all these Wi-Fi hotspots, you could create special kinds of contracts in the Bitcoin system where you can pay for the Wi-Fi, tethered Wi-Fi, as you walk throughout the city, and people can open up their hotspots and get some of the funds back from you to help fund that internet that they're using, and that helps incentivize the creation of
I got your point there. Ed, a lot of people are afraid
really interesting stuff.
A lot of people are afraid that the state is going to be pushed out of the economy with this new technology. How do you feel about that?
I mean, the states could very well get pushed out, and a lot could be pushed out, especially if you bypass them. And you know what? That's so far down the road. I think some states will be against this. Some countries will be against this. You know what? Again, a free market person, I'd like to see it happen. I just think that, as Peter said earlier, Daniel said earlier, that it is a trust factor, and you don't hear people talking about this. It seems like kind of a hokey thing, and until it is changed from that.
A lot of people don't trust banks. They just don't trust banks anymore, do they? This is why this is happening.
They do. That's not true. They might not trust. That's just not true. People trust banks. I mean, I manage money for people all over the world. They trust banks. They might not trust banks in Cyprus, and that might not happen where they don't trust banks in Cyprus, but they certainly don't trust their information on the internet, people seeing it, and then also having their currency on some newfangled idea called Bitcoin. We're just not there yet.
All right, gentlemen, absolutely fascinating discussion. Many thanks today to my guests in London, Atlanta, and in Dallas. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time, and remember, crosstalk rules. I love you.